Well, I'm Stacey and this is Kerry.
Hello, everybody.
If you don't know me, I am what am I? A personal trainer, professional health and performance coach, specialising in postnatal and perimenopause and menopause and all things women, just to give you guys the best version of yourselves and the best life possible. And Kerry here is Doctor of Chinese Medicine, acupuncturist.
And I practice acupuncture and I don't know, I've been practicing for a good 20 odd years, and that practice has kind of evolved from treating a lot of stressed out corporate ladies to women in this midlife season who are wondering what on earth is going on and what they can do with their bodies and their health.
Yeah. Lots of weird and wonderful things happening in the world of perimenopause, and I'm finding that we aren't talking about this stuff, and there isn't enough knowledge in the health professional world, and it's maybe just starting that we're getting some really cool studies on women done. So when we are talking about perimenopause and even menopause to the health professionals, or some of them, we're getting turned away, or we're getting just told it's in your head, or you're just a female, or you're just a woman, it's just part of who you are, or it's in your head. So,
and there's only so many times that we can be told that we're fine by somebody who is in some kind of knowledgeable role, whether it's a GP or someone like that, before we start to then actually doubt ourselves and think that it's actually us that's going crazy, or maybe there's actually something wrong with me or my body or any of those sorts of things. So they're the kind of conversations that I have a lot, where women are going, oh, it's probably just me being crazy, but actually this is wrong, or that feels painful, or this isn't working. So that's really why I started to think, actually, we haven't been educated as women in our sort of 40s and onwards. We didn't really get taught at school how our bodies work, what even the different parts of our bodies were called. It was kind of a tiny bit on how our periods happened and a tiny bit on how not to fall pregnant, and then we were sort of sent out into the world. That was certainly my experience. Sort of in my early 40s, I started to go, hang on a minute, this peri thing, wonder when that's going to start happening. And here it was, I was already in it.
Actually a thing.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at, Kerry? What are our signs and symptoms?
Well,
apart from the ever increasing waistline,
I love to go into the deep storytelling of it all, but really what I see women coming in as feeling tired, mentally, emotionally drained, worried about weight gain, worried about sex potentially, and just not coping. Generally.
And from maybe my side of the spectrum is a lot of the ladies are presenting with lack of sleep, just chronic tiredness, craving sugar due to being tired, due to being stressed, needing to get energy, tired, irritable, cranky, want to kill their husbands maybe, or partners.
Hating absolutely everybody.
And just having digestive problems that come from all of that sugar and come from our estrogen dropping, so that we have, bloating, constipation, those kind of things.
Dry skin, hair falling out. Oh, it's a grand time.
Sore boobs, UTIs, dry vaginas, lack of sex drive. And just hot and bothered. You said itchy. There's been some itchy skin things happening. And then another one in my line of work is niggles in your body. So the wheels sort of feel like they're falling off your four-wheel drive. So,
aches and pains in joints.
And that's not because you're hurting yourself. It's because our lack of estrogen is not lubricating our joints properly, and things are starting to shift and change. So, and then brain fog is another one I have here. Brain fog, lack of concentration. So again, that's us maybe relying on that sugar a little bit too much.
As well as the fluctuating, estrogen as well. You've probably seen this particular graphic, but I'll check if you've got it and you can put it in the Facebook group. But the hormone levels across our peri years don't just go neatly down. So we sort of get this
fall
picture.
off a cliff?
No, there's definitely not
like
a cliff.
that.
It really does feel like that. But the hormone levels do go down. So if we're talking about estrogen in particular, but it goes down whilst doing this.
Yeah.
So there's fluctuating levels that isn't neat and tidy of saying, oh, I've got over or under. It's just that it's actually going up and down, and our body isn't used to dealing with that.
So we're going through adult puberty.
Adult puberty, literally reverse puberty. So if you've got teens at the minute and you're watching their moods go up and down, and you're thinking, gee, this looks familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. We should be actually mirroring our children at the moment. Our children are teenagers and we're in our 40s and 50s, and we're behaving the same. So
yeah, that can feel quite frightening. I think a lot of what we've been told is that you will get hot flushes, and then one day your period will go away, and voila, you're in menopause.
Yeah.
And realistically, there's all these other symptoms and experiences that Stacey just mentioned, that we suddenly start going, do I have a gut issue? Is my brain broken? All these other things, but we don't necessarily know that that's part and parcel. Lots of ladies come in to me saying, oh, it can't be peri because I don't have any hot flushes, and yet they're ticking all of those things that Stacey just listed off, which clearly do show that we've got this oscillating, fluctuating estrogen happening, as well as the good old middle that just feels like it's
ever expanding.
Yeah.
And then touching on periods and your cycle starts to shorten. So based on a 28-day cycle, you might find that you're getting your period at 24, 25, 26 days, and it's erratic across each month. So tracking your cycle can really help assist with that. You might find that you have heavier bleeds in your cycle as well, which is not nice, and then you get a bit of cramping. And then we're going to have to love ourselves a little bit more in those times, because obviously we're going to be a bit more irritable and more cranky because the periods are all over the place, and then you can't plan your summer holidays and your weekends away and your anniversaries because you don't know what the hell's going on.
We're really painting a wonderful, wonderful picture here, aren't we?
But they do say in the recent studies that are coming out that this is like a little puberty moment, and this does ease after a period of time, and everyone's journey through perimenopause can have different time lengths. So it can be a couple of months, it could be a couple of years, and the symptoms could be a varying amount, or you might not have any, or you might be lucky enough to have all of them. But it does ease and it goes away before we go into that menopause transition. So there is a little bit of light
100%.
at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to state that this is from a brain health perspective. So I follow
and quality of life, because we deserve that.
Quality of life. It's a window where we can actually, if we take extra care of ourselves, if we give ourselves, okay, this is going to be maybe even 5 years of just extra TLC that we need to take. It's actually setting ourselves up for a really strong, vital, fit, healthy, strong-boned, healthy-brained elder age. This is when we kind of get to do that. So kind of like our teens. I don't have teens. I say our teens. I'm borrowing your teens. But like
you can borrow them next 5 years.
If you know, like it's that moment where if you can kind of get that season not right, because there's
sorted a bit more, under control,
cared for,
maybe.
Maintained.
Balance is a terrible word.
We have an opportunity to be really, really well older ladies, but unfortunately, our peri is often that peri time season is a little bit like a health report card for our 30s. So if we enter our 40s stressed, tired, overworked with kind of subclinical health issues that are just under the surface.
Yeah, they're all going to bubble to the surface
and
hit you.
They are, unfortunately,
like a freight train,
going to come up to ask to be taken care of at this point in time.
Yeah.
And
hence all these weird niggles that are popping up. Yeah. That's just letting you know that a little bit more self-care is due, because if we don't get this stuff sorted now, menopause is going to be a whole pile of mess, isn't it? The symptoms become really quite severe, and we would love to pulling back to that quality of life. Women deserve quality of life. We don't deserve to be turned away and said it's all in your head. There are things that you can do to enter your menopause years with love and kindness and quality of life.
There's
and
a lot
feeling
that's
like,
in our control.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to tell you about.
Yeah, taking control. We're all control freaks at heart, aren't we? This is the one thing we can control is our body and our mind. And
and the care that we're able to access and ask for from ourselves, from our healthcare, and also those around us, those beautiful, glorious humans that share our homes. They need to be on our teams as well. We might need to educate them a little bit, but that's okay too.
Stay away from us in week 3 of our period.
Yes, that is also very, very helpful. There are so many rabbit holes that we can and will, and if you let us, we will go down them.
Yeah. This meeting could go down many different paths, so we're going to be led by you guys as to what specifically you would like to talk about. But the main takeaway is there's sort of 6 things that you can look at to troubleshoot areas of your life to give yourself the best metabolic health. To carry on and have this quality of life and easing these symptoms into menopause. So the first one would be home cooking your food. So being in control of your food, eliminating as much processed food out of your diets as you can. The second one would be water and staying hydrated. That's super, super important. Number 3 would be movement, strength and resistant training, walking. So just moving more, getting up out of the office chair and promoting bone health, muscle gain, or muscle maintenance, maintaining muscle. Yeah. And then increasing that heart health as well by just doing some exercise. That's also going to get your metabolism and digestion going really beautifully and help maintain a little bit of that or manage that torso weight gain.
Yes.
And then the other 2 major ones is sleep and stress. So those 2 we really need to get under control. Sleeping 8 hours a night, maybe creating a sleep routine, and managing stress and looking at areas of your life. You know, I think things that we can't control is moving house, changing jobs, things like that. But day-to-day stresses in our life, we need to actually look at, you know, what's important to us and what can we, you know, kind of download a little bit.
Absolutely.
And the last one is getting support with some more supplements that we might be missing in our diet. Some of the things are vitamin D, vitamin B, zinc, magnesium, fish oils, omegas, protein, collagen, those kind of things, and supporting yourself with maybe some providers that might help you give yourself a bit more self-care and a bit more love, and maybe, you know, like some manual therapy on the body.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From a Chinese health perspective, the changes that are happening internally and why we need more protein as we age is that our brain is genuinely, literally, actually, and I'm using all of those words in their correct.
You're like a teenager using all those words, literally,
putting
actually,
them all together in their correct usage, but our brain is completely restructuring. It's going from, even if you choose to go on HRT or it's part of your plan as you hit your 40s and you know, later years, that's absolutely fine, but your brain is reconfiguring. So your ability to deal with stresses and lack of sleep and change in diet is absolutely not the same as it has been in your 30s. So I think we expect ourselves to be able to do these huge internal changes, which, I mean, we can't see right, but I think if you ask any of us, we just feel like we know that something is going on and that our energy is being consumed somewhere, and it absolutely is. That's not in our heads. That's a real, genuine, physiological transition that is happening. And things like exercise, making sure your diet's full of fish oils, protein, all of these things actually help you be able to transition. Our gut function is also changing because it relies on a lot of estrogen to do different things. So again, fiber comes in
with food so that our cells are providing us with energy. We're not getting energy from external sources like sugar. Yeah. And then we're adding in, I'm picking on sugar, I'm sorry. But we're adding in and reaching for sugar. And what we're doing is by eating that sugar, say it's a muesli bar, when we're tired, we're actually teaching our body to use sugar as energy.
Yeah.
What we need to be doing is teaching our body to use the carbohydrates and protein stored and fat stored in our body and use that as energy.
Yeah.
And the food that we're eating. So ideally, if we're not overeating, we're using the store and we're essentially dropping a little bit of body fat. So if we're teaching our body to metabolize and use sugar as energy, that's actually not going to benefit your body, and your body is going to stop metabolizing and functioning correctly, which then snowballs into your sleep and your stress and your energy to want to even train or do anything, self-love, like it'll just pretty much the wheels just fall off.
The wheels fall off.
Yeah. So food is the key, and unfortunately we're a little bit spoilt, or
there's just so much ease on option.
Takeaway, we live busy lives. We all work 2 jobs. You know, husband and wife got to work to provide. You know, things get hard. We have less time. We're busy. We're stressed. We're overwhelmed. So we just get takeaway, which is full of processed foods, sugars, and that's really upsetting the digestion and upsetting metabolic health. It's actually really triggering off all of those signs and symptoms that we are experiencing, and putting it back into our control. We have control over those things for the most part, and like Kerry was saying, we really don't have the ability to do a massive overhaul at the moment because our brains are
very busy, genuinely reconfiguring themselves.
So we need to just slowly pick a few things, and we were suggesting maybe tonight that maybe you pick 2 or 3 things that we've maybe talked about.
Because there's lots of things you could suddenly go off and go, right, I'm going to do my diet, and I'm going to join some fitness, and I'm going to get some treatment, and I'm going to like clean out the entire pantry and argue with every other person in my house as I do it, you know. But we would
start just small, manageable chunks. I'm all about starting small, and the snowball analogy is you have a small piece of snow, and we're just going to slowly build on that until it becomes this beautiful new way of life, and you pick the things that are most important to you to change, those things that are really bogging you down, that stand out. There'll be a big red light for you, and those things that you can look at changing. So obviously Kerry and I are absolutely here to help you. You don't have to do this by yourself.
There's
a question?
Question in the chat. I feel like I'm on one of those calls. Hey, Stacey, we've got a question in the chat. The brain reconfiguring. So there's a couple of people. Dr. Lisa Mosconi is the coolest woman in brain science at this point, and she is like the first woman ever to actually study female brain science. So there's 100 different podcasts. I will link a bunch of them to somewhere where you can access them. But also, if you just Googled her, you will definitely find.
What's her name again?
Lisa Mosconi, Mosconi. I think she's Nordic in some fashion. We have another wonderful neuroscientist in Australia called Dr. Sarah McKay, and her book, The Female Brain, came out a bunch of years ago, and I think with all the new current science, she's just relaunching that. I did a course with her in 2020, as we were all doing courses in 2020, and it was really, really fascinating, the actual changes that are going on in our internal brains at that point in time. So, it's really helpful to know, because it can be quite confronting when that brain fog hits, and you think, oh my goodness, maybe I'm actually going crazy, or am I, is there something wrong? Odds are no, you're just in one of those moments.
All right.
Any other questions? Because we can and will talk very, very, and also it's helpful to understand what's happening. I personally, from an acupuncture perspective, I find the science quite helpful. I like to understand what bits are going where, and also don't underestimate the amount of change that we can affect just making sure that we've got enough fluid in our diet. Creatine. I know that Stacey talks about creatine quite a bit in her training. And
Alethea, our nutritionist, recommends that to help with the brain fog. So creatine is coming out in all the studies at the moment.
Yeah, it's actually the most studied supplement or mineral or something. Yeah.
It used to be quite a taboo thing because all the boys used to try and juice up on it, but that's not the case. If you're taking a 3 to 5 gram serve daily,
it's really helpful.
It's very helpful, and it can also promote a really nice workout in the gym, which will then also help you promote muscle gain and muscle recovery and that cognitive function. It's really amazing.
And, sugar, again, I know that we keep talking about poor old sugar, but if we're only putting carb after carb after carb in, I love my toast.
Yeah.
But if that's all our brain has got to go on, your brain does need carbohydrate, obviously.
It does, yeah.
But if it, again, is
a
that fluctuating, that's going up and down, then it will really knock our poor heads around.
Yeah. And then it's also shooting our adrenals and our stress response, and it's very difficult on our own to bring those adrenals down and to bring cortisol levels to a normal level. Yes, we do need cortisol and we do need adrenaline, but we don't need it sky high through the roof all day just running like on nerves.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to bring that down.
Yeah. So if you're in that fight or flight stress response, your brain is partially switched off because it thinks you have to run from a big scary bear,
Digestion stops because digestion only happens at rest time, and rest time is when the nervous system drops down into parasympathetic and relax.
Yeah. I often say to clients, if you had to flee something, some big scary bear, if we keep using that analogy, if you had to flee a big scary bear, you wouldn't sort of stop halfway through and think, gee, I really need a ham cheese toasty. You'd just keep running.
Just keep running. Yeah. And on that note, because I've had acupuncture with you, and that meditative, crazy, amazing parasympathetic state that you put me in was incredible, and it just takes the vibrations out of your body. We've got another question.
Oh, digestion. Oh, what does that mean? Well, digestion only happens at rest time. So again, if you think about if you needed to run and you were in fight or flight, which is that necessary, mechanism to be safe, your body very sensibly switches off everything else other than getting blood to your arms and legs and your heart.
Yeah.
So if you are in a short-term stressful day and you have a big thing that you have to do, or you lose something, or you leave something at home, you might see that in that short day you suddenly aren't hungry. But if that stress goes on and on and on and on and on,
you're skipping meals and you're reaching for high calorie, high sugar, high energy options.
Coffee after coffee.
Yeah, and then going to bed with wine to relax. So we do need some elements of ebb and flow throughout our day where we can just deregulate our body so it comes down out of that sympathetic nervous system, that fight and flight, and down into parasympathetic. And a lot of that can be done with some really nice big belly breaths. We can do that at traffic lights. You can breathe into your belly and start bringing and recalibrating your body. It can't be in that heightened state for long periods of time. Digestion and all of the necessary functions for our body to function optimally, we need to have that balance between rest and digest and a little bit of adrenaline so that we can kind of hit the deadline. Otherwise, we'd still be in bed sleeping in our relaxed state.
Like you can get up, go to a workout with Stacey, come home, and then feel chill and eat a really nice brekkie.
Yeah. So you need the cortisol, you need the adrenaline, you need that sympathetic state to be able to do your workout, but you also need to be able to have recovery and relax.
Yeah.
When I say relaxation, people are like, oh my God, I can't relax. But we need recovery. Recovery is important.
Just slowing back down to just like...
Yeah. It's maybe coming off your phone and just sitting and staring out at space for 5 minutes while you have a cup of tea. That can really help deregulate your nervous system and get you back down.
How can acupuncture support peri? So from a Chinese medicine perspective, we look at the body and the organs in this whole other way. It's a Bachelor of Health Sciences that lasts 4 degrees, and 4 years rather, and we learn about how the organs work from the Western scientific perspective, but we're also looking at it from this Chinese health perspective is sort of the easiest way to say that. So it's supporting, acupuncture can support the liver, to support the hormone fluctuations. It supports the kidney energy, which translates to that fight or flight adrenal energy to calm down your stress levels. It's to use Chinese TCM language. It's supporting the free flowing of qi and blood through the organs. The Australian Menopause Society actually rates acupuncture as an adjunct to HRT to support lots of other joint pain, sleep, stress, all sorts of other things. I know, we actually rate. I know.
That's very cool.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that answers your question, Blythe. It is quite involved, and it supports you. So if you come in the way that I would treat, or any other Chinese health person would treat, your symptomology would be different to how they might treat my symptomology. So if you come in with hot flushes and feeling anxious, I'm going to support you to come out of that. There's not 10 points that you use for every single person who's in peri.
Yeah, specific. Yeah, so if you are like me and needed to just lie down and chill out and drop into your relaxation state and have my pulse just calm down a little bit, stick a few little pins in there and relax me down, and I walk out feeling $1 million, and that I can actually think and feel and be part of the world again. Get
some good sleep.
Yeah.
How many times throughout the day to make rest happen? Because mother of teens,
yeah, that's really hard. I really am going to use the word steal some time. Yeah. It's very difficult, but it's about creating habits, and again about stealing small manageable chunks of time. So if that's something that is a priority to you in this time, you could start by setting a timer on your phone, and 2 minutes before you go to bed, just close your eyes and sit down and breathe and focus on breathing for 2 minutes, and that will help drop you down. Yeah. You could do that as many times as you wanted. You could lie into child's pose and do it. If you want to do a less meditative state, you could just sit and have a cup of tea in the back garden. Yeah. And literally stare at the trees, or just observe nature, or look at the breeze, or look at the birds, or smell what's around you, or feel the grass.
Any of those just micro moments where you're actually in your body, as opposed to being in the chores that are in the future 10, 15, 20 minutes
You've just got to come back in here, and breathing is a really nice way to take you out of your head, because breathing focuses you on something for you rather than, breathing actually can control and calm your brain down from all of these thoughts.
It's the only way that we have access to do that, actually.
Yeah. And I think the more times you steal a little bit of time, even if it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes here and there, because if you're going to steal half an hour, you're going to actually become overwhelmed, because you've got to do all these other 1,000 things, and it doesn't become manageable. So the more little chunks of time you can take, they will accumulate over time, and then the habit builds, and that snowball becomes bigger, and you start being able to prioritize time. And maybe the more time you do spend resting and being mindful, you'll actually be more productive in your day. So you'll actually then create more time in your day for yourself.
100%. I do see that a lot with clients who at first they can't get their head around having a treatment anything more than once every 4 or 5 weeks. And I say, great. Therefore, it needs to be every 4 or 5 weeks for, let's just say 6 months. But what happens is, like you've said, Stacey, that snowball effect of it just becoming more normalized to have 5 minutes here, cup of tea there.
Yeah.
A long weekend gets planned in 6 months' time. There's just these little moments that happen that do create habits for yourself, but habits for the people in your life as well who do care about you and do actually want you to be well.
Yeah. You could try and sneak in a walk with hubby or with one of the children, even if it's 10 minutes around the block, and you say, I'm just going to take some time out, I'm going to do a little bit of exercise, I'm going to go for a walk. But walking is actually really nice and mindful, and it can actually drop you down and relax you. It can also help you clear your head and get rid of those thoughts that are bouncing around your head, and then you have a bit more clarity to be more productive throughout your day, or to wind you down before nighttime. It can also help you with digestion. So there's a few ways that you can kind of double up on a few of these things and get multiple benefits. What was something else I was going to say on that, but it might have to come back to me. No, you didn't interrupt. Like again, there's 1,000 rabbit holes. We could just keep going down all of these things, but I think you need to just come back to what is most important to you and just finding small manageable chunks, because they will all accumulate into a bigger picture for you. And I know that it seems really overwhelming, but going back to periods and cycles and things like that, down regulating your nervous system and finding that relaxation and coming out of that stress state can help you with your heavier periods. It can help you with your cycle and help regulate your cycle. So your cycle and tracking your cycle is a really good insight into how your body is performing and what kind of stressed or relaxed state you can actually be in. So tracking your cycle can give you that insight, and then you can kind of manage your cycle with your behaviours and with your habits.
And if there's any way, and it doesn't always suit, of course, but if you kind of go, okay, well, day 27 or 28 or 26 is going to be around here, I'm going to book that thing that I do have control over on day 22, or I'm going to book it for day 6, because that's the one thing that I do have choice over. So I'm not going to overload, you know, day 27 or 28, because my bandwidth is going to be this small. And I've already got 3 things on that day, you know. Just
100%. In that last 2 weeks of your cycle is deloading the amount of social and business things that you have going on, and maybe reschedule them for the first 2 weeks of your cycle when you have the most estrogen and the most energy to be able to manage these things. You've got another question.
Another HRT question. So in Chinese medicine approach, is HRT used? So you might get a different answer from depending on who you ask, but Chinese, like TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, doesn't technically use HRT. That's a Western medicine treatment. It works perfectly well with it because it's not going to counteract, interfere, block, or hinder. In fact, it's going to support its efficacy further potentially. So there's what I have seen. I need to choose my language carefully sometimes when things are a bit heated and people have lots of different strong views on things. I've seen a lot of pro-HRT, a lot of anti-HRT, and I think as women it would be really wonderful if we could just support each and every woman to find her own unique path. And if you want to birth your baby like that, great. If you want to have your period like that, great. If you want to breastfeed like that, great. If you want to do your HRT or you know HRT or your menopause like X, Y, or Z, amazing. So any woman that comes in who is contemplating HRT, I have looked quite deeply into it myself so that I just simply know what the options are, so that a lot of clients, you know, haven't been able to find a GP yet who can actually tell them what the options are.
Yeah, that's a very tricky point.
It's a tricky thing. And so for some women, they're like, it's the best thing since sliced bread, it's amazing. And other women are like still 12 months later trying to just sort out and fix, manage, deal with lots of different symptomology. So that is really where acupuncture and sometimes supplementation based on blood testing, lifestyle factors, stress management, and all of these things are really, really, really essential. So if you came to me or you came to some other health practitioner for some acupuncture and you said, I'm on HRT, I think it's ACE, we would say amazing. Lie down, what else is going on, and you tell me about your sleep or your stress or your sore knee or whatever else is going on, and I would integrate that into whatever you needed for your treatment. Resources about
learning about phases of the cycle.
There are quite a few.
Learning about the phases of the cycle or tracking the cycle. So
for example, there's a whole bunch of apps if you're into apps. So I use an app called Clue. There's a few others.
I actually use the health app on my iPhone to track mine. But there are really cool apps that you can use, and you can track, you know, how heavy your period is or your symptoms and cramping or spotting or whatever those things. Recommended resource for learning, I might just drop you some links Yes, we should eat differently and work out differently, definitely. Look, I have some information myself that I can drop into that link, and I'll see if I can find the actual sources of where they've come from.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of people that, coach on periods and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's based realistically on, and again, I will put this graph. Yeah. Welcome to my graph of what your different levels do at different points in your cycle. So based on that, so for example, even the Chelsea Football Club, I love this quote, it's quite a bunch of years old now, you probably heard it. So they won their premiership, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and they were at the time one of the only, kind of like seed cycling, but you know that's a bit niche, but yes, they won their premiership based on training all of their girls around their cycles. And bizarrely enough, there was a lot of data around avoiding ACL tears. This is like a really specific thing based on where they were in their cycle.
So I can go into that a little bit because we can't go too crazy because I think we're coming up to time. But just really simply, you've got a standard cycle is approximately 28 days. You split that into 4 weeks. The first 2 weeks, or in our first, say, 4 to 5 days, we're having our bleed. So from day 1 until day 14, and let's call day 14 our ovulation day. Mm-hmm. The first 2 weeks, we should have the most amount of energy, the most amount of estrogen and progesterone. So that is where we can lift heavier, have more energy, do higher intensity exercise. We are also not actually as hungry in that cycle. So socially, you can plan and build up your calendar and go for it. When we come into ovulation is when our joints and our ligaments and our tendons become quite vulnerable. And I've heard, actually, Alethea recommend taking extra collagen supplements prior to training and toning our training down, and this could be the ACL tears and things like that, across ovulation. So ovulation is we're very soft and gentle, so we need to take a slower approach to our training, and our training is going to taper off for the last 2 weeks. So we have our estrogen and our progesterone dropping off in those last 2 weeks. We will have less energy, less strength, and we'll actually be more hungry, which is probably not the greatest combo. So in that last 2 weeks, if you want to go down a nutrition pathway, you want to start thinking about not loading, but for lack of a better word, let's go with loading, but enjoying more carbohydrates. Carbohydrates like rice, pumpkin, sweet potato, oats, and things like that to give your body the fuel and the slow release energy to get you through towards the end where we get our next bleed. Because you'll find in your cycle you will have this mad sugar craving in like the last week or so because you are dropping in, this is talking about perimenopause now, but it's the same thing. Because our estrogen and our progesterone is dropping, we're looking for energy because we've lost that hormone. That hormone dictates to us, you know, everything in our life and how we behave. So if you can manage that with nutrition again, then you will have enough energy without seeking that sugar and everyone's sitting in bed with their period and their pimples eating chocolate because, you know, that's what our body's asking for because we're low in energy. So,
and how we are in that third week of our cycle really does translate to that broader season of peri. And it's tricky, even if we're tracking our cycle from our mid to late 40s, we might not actually be ovulating every month, which is where our low progesterone, and that's a whole nother TED talk, but our low progesterone, which can result in earlier periods, heavier periods if we don't have enough of it. We can feel more anxious, we can hold more fluid. So sometimes women who are thinking about HRT will often be prescribed progesterone on its own first. And then that's a whole nother thing that I see GPs doing, and it usually being quite successful actually.
And on the other flip side of that, if you were to overdo your energy levels and do too much in week 3 and week 4, that can actually translate into having a pretty rough period. So if you can in week 3 and week 4 maybe do more walking or some yoga, or just slowing yourself down so that you're not trashing your nervous system, you will find that you will have a kinder period. So I usually have to ask my partner in week 3 to just help me out around the house a bit more, because I find I get really overwhelmed, and even the simplest tasks like cooking dinner and cleaning up just gets to me, and there is no reason for it. I'm just irritable. So I'm like, I need a little bit more support, which then helps me to then not have such a savage period, and I'm actually a nicer person. So I think it's what I was going to say before I've remembered, and it all ties all this in together, is awareness. Is what we're trying to do is create awareness and education for women, because we're getting sent to health professionals that don't have the education or the knowledge yet, because it's still coming out. So there's a few of us that are trying really hard to be ahead of the 8 ball, to have this knowledge from all these amazing studies that are coming out, because we're not 30-year-old men, we are women with a uterus, and we have lots of different hormones. So we just want to educate you and create awareness. If we can give you that awareness, you can take control back of your life. Yeah. And without that awareness and that knowledge, like, you're just in the dark and you have no idea what's going on.
It can feel really scary and confusing. Yeah. I don't know that Stacey said that the bleed week is good for higher workouts.
Yes, it is. It is. It's determined on your bleed. So some people that are actually on their bleed may not actually feel like lifting heavy. But in that first 2 weeks, because your estrogen is higher, you are more likely to be able to have the energy and the capability to lift heavier. But on your bleed specifically, that's individual, because some people just want to stay in bed with a hot water bottle, and you're not going to want to be doing like 80 kilo squats with your period. However, some people might just be like, meh, and just go for it. So that's individual. But in that first 2 weeks, you're definitely stronger and you definitely have more energy. So I hope that.
I'm learning.
You're learning?
I'm learning.
Is there any more questions? Because I feel like we may need to wrap this up, and if we have more, like, I could do a part 3, B, C, D, E, F, G, Z.
Yeah, as you can see, we really don't have much enthusiasm for this topic at all.
I think you and I've got enthusiasm for every topic. Just life.
We are quite enthusiastic, especially when put
together. All right. Well, I don't know what you want to finish with, but I would just like to finish with reminding you of areas of your life that you can support yourself in, and that's number 1, home-cooked food as much as you can. Lots of fibre, leafy greens, slow-release carbohydrates, good quality fuel, protein and collagen. So protein for your muscles and collagen for your connective tissues.
Slow cooked meals, even
promoting digestion.
Yeah, even when it's hot, you can put a beautiful slow cooked lamb with fresh greens and salads to make it lighter, but you're just getting all of those nutrients.
And eating the rainbow is a good one.
Yeah.
Staying hydrated.
Yeah.
Making sure that movement is a priority in your life, resistance and strength training and walking.
Yeah.
Managing your sleep, getting 8 hours a night. And managing your stress. And then the last one is getting support with some supplements that you may or may not have in your diet, because vitamins and minerals and things like that can really help boost you out of your adrenals and bring you down. Yeah. It can also boost your energy. It can help you regulate your nervous system. And what we're aiming for is optimal metabolic health.
Yeah.
We're aiming for you guys to have just a joyful, easy life, because you deserve it.
Yeah, and stress really is such a broad, big topic. And again, we could talk about this whole entire time with just talking about stress. But
they all do tie in together, though.
Yeah, it does affect everything. It affects how you eat. It affects the different choices you make. It affects your sleep. So if you can do one thing each day that invites you to slow down, invariably, we're all going too fast.
Yeah.
Rarely do we need a kick up the bum to do more. I don't meet anybody that needs a kick up the bum to do more.
And all of the gym programs, I'm like, will you slow down?
Yes.
It's not a race.
She's genuinely telling all of us to slow down. I'm sure you know that already. Like, yes, I can do this faster though.
Slowing down. So it'd be interesting to see what couple of things you guys have picked out that you want to work on.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm very grateful that you've given us the time of day to actually listen to our ramblings, and I very much appreciate it because I do enjoy imparting as much knowledge as I can.
Yeah, thank you. I made an appointment while we talked. Amazing.
Aww. Hydration seems like the next one, considering how hot it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe thinking about some fizzy water, like natural
electrolytes
sparkling.
and things.
Yeah, just to help you, because sometimes just that plain tap water gets a bit monotonous and boring.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of
get
a
and
bit
again,
creative
like
with that.
there's rules within rules, and we can get carried away with things, but just get fluid in.
Yeah.
Start there, and then you can get fussy.
Yep, absolutely. You are most welcome. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And you can find Stacey in all the places that
Salts
you
is
can
good.
normally find Stacey, and you can find me in all of the places that you normally find everyone else.
And even in Stacey's gym, you might find Kerry.
Yes.
Bleary-eyed at 6 a.m.
Yes.
All right, ladies, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Bye.